Did you know WB and Avalanche have confirmed we'll be visiting more locations than just Hogwarts? Today we're going to be talking about what we've heard so far about these other locations. We actually have 2 confirmed, and then we'll get into some speculation on some other places I think we could be visiting. And we're starting right now. People of the internet, RetroRaconteur here. If we're meeting for the first time, I'm just a dad who loves games and the stories they tell. We post videos every week here on YouTube and also stream over on Twitch. If you're looking to keep track of all the Hogwarts Legacy news, theories, and speculation, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss any of the new videos. Today we're talking about 5 locations we may see in Hogwarts Legacy, which in and of itself some may find a bit surprising considering the game is, called Hogwarts Legacy. Now I do think Hogwarts is obviously going to be the main focus of this game. Making sure Hogwarts is fully explorable and has plenty of things to do is certainly going to be priority number 1 for Avalanche. But did you know they've already confirmed we'll be going to more locations than just Hogwarts? Here it is, the official Hogwarts Legacy FAQ. If you haven't checked this out yet, I'll be sure to link it down in the description below. The question is, does the game take place only in Hogwarts Castle? And then they go on to answer, Hogwarts Legacy takes players beyond Hogwarts to new and familiar locations, including the Forbidden Forest and Hogsmeade Village. So there we have 2 locations confirmed right away in both Hogsmeade and the Forbidden Forest. This isn't really a huge surprise when you consider their close proximity to the school, and both of these are such iconic locations visited frequently by students in the books. But what really has me excited is apparently it doesn't stop there. We're going to be visiting both new and familiar locations. Now, there is one more official source of news for the game that also mentions other locations by name, and that is the Adrian Ropp PlayStation blog post. Again, I'll link it down in the description if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this one for sure. The bit that stands out to me and relates to our video today is when Ropp says, quote, "The Forbidden Forest was still forbidden and home to centaurs not likely keen on human interaction. Goblins were around, but this lot certainly didn't work at Gringotts. The village of Hogsmeade was there, and an Ollivander has been making wands since 382 BC. Often the difficult task is choosing which details we aren't going to explore." Now, you have to notice here, he doesn't necessarily confirm any of these locations. He even says the part at the end about how it's difficult for them to leave places out. Of course, because of that FAQ page, we already know the Forbidden Forest is indeed in, as is Hogsmeade. But what about those other 2, Gringotts and Ollivanders? Well, I think when you take his mention of Ollivanders here, plus the fact that we have this official screenshot, I think we can kick off our list today with Ollivanders. What little we know about the story of the game indicates our character receives a late acceptance letter to Hogwarts. Now, we don't really know why. We aren't sure if we'll have done any magic beforehand. If we come from a wizarding family or a muggle family, we just don't know at this point. But what we do know is that any wizard or witch going to Hogwarts will need a wand. And when you consider just how long the Ollivanders have been making wands, it should come as no surprise when we see the wand shop early in the game. To me, the bigger question is what other locations of Diagon Alley might we see? And that leads me to number 2, Gringotts. We're introduced to the Wizarding Bank very early in Harry Potter's story. He learns from Hagrid about the small fortune his parents left behind for him, and of course that it's located in Gringotts. We learn later in the story that this is also the place where Hagrid picks up the Sorcerer's Stone for Dumbledore. We're told all throughout the series just how secure the Wizarding Bank is, which is of course managed by goblins. Arguably, Gringotts' biggest moment of the series happens in Book 7 when Harry, Ron, and Hermione need to break into the Lestrange Vault. So if Gringotts were to make an appearance in Hogwarts Legacy, it would likely be protecting a certain object or artifact we may need to retrieve. Or perhaps it's simply in the game just to serve as a bank. In fact, speaking of that, we just aren't sure if we'll have a currency in the game. Will we be collecting galleons and sickles to go and buy things? Up next, how about Azkaban? Now, this is a location that I would have never predicted if not for the trailer. I mean, look at this shot right here. To me, this has to be Azkaban, right? You can even see what appears to be the entrance to individual cells just here on the right. Now, I wouldn't have predicted this location because, why would we need to go to Azkaban? Unless we're an incredibly dark wizard. Come to think of it, how hilarious would it be if you play as an evil wizard and actually get thrown into Azkaban, GTA style, and then you have to get back out? I kind of started that as a joke, but now that I say it out loud, maybe it's not such a crazy idea. Perhaps there's even a moment in the story where we find ourselves in Azkaban, whether you play as good or evil. Maybe if you play as good, you're falsely accused and wind up there. It's just that they show Dementors in the trailer. I guess they could just appear in a cutscene and maybe our character never actually visits Azkaban, but I just don't think they would show them in the trailer if we won't encounter them during the game. And if we encounter them in the game, it means we either have to go to Azkaban or for some reason they will once again leave Azkaban, which we know was a pretty big deal when that happened. We need to do some more thinking on this one. In fact, let me know what you think down in the comments. First of all, do you think this is Azkaban? And if so, will our character actually visit that location or will it only appear in a cutscene? Number 4, St. Mungos Hospital. Now, we all know Hogwarts has its own hospital wing where students are typically treated for minor injuries. However, serious injuries need St. Mungos for more advanced treatment. Considering we know the game has dragons and fiery Dementors and likely plenty of other creatures looking to tear us apart, there could definitely come a time when we'll need to pay a visit to St. Mungos. The counter argument here to this one is, again, that Hogwarts has its own hospital wing. It likely makes far more sense for the game to focus on that location for our injuries rather than introducing a location like St. Mungos. Now, all that being said, there were indeed several times throughout the main series where characters had severe enough injuries that they needed to be taken to St. Mungos. Katie Bell with the cursed necklace, Arthur Weasley after being attacked by Nagini, and even McGonagall after she tried to stop Umbridge and the Aurors from taking Hagrid in Book 5. Moving on to number 5, though, the Ministry of Magic. I hesitated to even include this one as one location because there's just so much going on at the Ministry. The game would only take us there if there's something very specific that needed to be done. And I can't imagine that the whole Ministry would be explorable. I mean, it would be amazing if they do, but just think about how massive that place is. There's the Department of Mysteries, Department of Magical Games and Sports, Department of Magical Law Enforcement, among several others. It does sound like a lot, but remember, this is an open-world action RPG. As big as Hogwarts is and as much fun as we'll all have exploring it, it is possible they'll try and have even more. And if you think about it, games can be so massive these days. Just thinking about the size of something like The Witcher 3 or Red Dead Redemption 2, they could absolutely go this route and have all these extra locations if they really wanted to do it. Don't get me wrong, the focus definitely needs to be on Hogwarts, but if they wanted to add more explorable locations with deep lore and lots to do, the Ministry would certainly, you would think, be at the top of that list. Now remember, Avalanche has said we'll be visiting, quote, new locations as well. What do you guys think they mean by new? Will this be completely new locations that we've never even heard of before? Or will they be places we've heard of in passing throughout the other stories in the Wizarding world? Let me know what you think. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.